No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Leonie Dawson refuses to be categorized. Bluey! Shout out to all the mums out there. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so today, my loves, I wanted to share with you about my new favorite investment, which is ethical managed funds. So, first up, please note this is not financial advice. I just wanted to share what I'm loving and learning and thinking about. So, before you make any financial decisions, make sure you talk to a financial advisor. This is not a sponsored post as well. I don't do them, so you don't ever have to worry about that. So, I fucking love talking about money and investing, and I love learning about money too, what other people are doing with it, and how to be an even better custodian for it. And here's the thing, women especially, we don't talk about money, and therefore we deny ourselves the gift of financial literacy. I fucking love talking about money with my mates because I get to learn so much. So I wanted to tell you about the investment that I'm most excited about lately, and if you want to get even more behind the scenes in my finances and learn the easy but powerful ways to reduce your debt and increase your savings, make sure you check out my program, Money Manifesting Multiple Streams of Income. It's doubling in price at the end of April, so if you want it, grab it now to save yourself a lot of dollars. So early last year, I made a big change with our retirement funds. It was fueled by the hellish Australian bushfires and my awakening to the climate crisis. I decided it was time to put my retirement money where my mouth is and move it from a normal retirement fund into an ethical retirement fund. Specifically, a fund that does not invest in mining or gambling or tobacco, guns, human rights abuses, logging, etc. And instead, they invest in stuff like clean energy and sustainable solutions and innovative tech and more. I ended up choosing Australian Ethical, and the transfer process was fucking so simple. It honestly took me a couple of minutes online, and all it needed was my tax file number. It was bloody amazing, and I put off for doing that for so long, thinking that it was going to be hard, but it was so stupidly simple. There are a bunch of other similar funds in Australia, including Verve Super, which is women run, Future Super, and traditional super funds are also increasingly offering an ethical or environmental option as well. Honestly, it's about the best thing since sliced bread. The more people move their superannuation funds into ethical options, the more difficult it becomes to fund invasive mining operations, gambling, and tobacco, etc. Plus, it makes really fucking good investment sense because the way of the future is sustainable, and that's evidenced by the world's largest fund manager dumping thermal coal as an investment. That's BlackRock. They're billion dollar company. So, hot tip, if you do decide to move your superannuation or your retirement funds, make sure you take into account life insurances and other insurances that are often attached to your super. Sometimes they're calculated by how long that you've contributed, so a move may hurt your life insurance. So once I'd made my superannuation ethical, it totally made me excited to do more ethical investing. I ended up doing an interview on the Ethical Change podcast with Bindi Height, and she mentioned that she not only had moved her super into ethical funds, but had invested in ethical managed funds too. And that totally made me prick my little weird ears up, and I researched further because I didn't actually know what managed funds were. All I knew about was shares, which was buying particular stocks in a company. So here's how I'll explain it to you. Managed funds is like a collection of shares. So instead of picking one company to invest in and exposing yourself to the risk of all your eggs in one basket, you instead invest in a whole bunch of companies at once so that there's lots of eggs in your basket. So when you buy one share in a managed fund, that share gives you many shares in all of the companies that the fund's invested in, which is exactly what's happening with your superannuation, really. Your money's invested in a big old range of companies, and you don't have to decide what stocks to buy and sell because the fund does. And in the case of ethical managed funds, they also make sure that the companies are sustainable as well. Plus, again, good investment sense. Paul Jarvis describes managed funds or EFTs as an investment burrito, as in you're not buying one single ingredient, you're buying a whole bunch of things wrapped into one. If you want to see like a little graphic I designed to try and describe it, if you go to leoniedawson.com/mutual funds, that works as well. Now, I did want to put an addendum here as well. A lot of people instead like to invest in low-cost index funds, which is basically the same thing, but it's not managed. They're just investing in every company that's, in the stock market. And on the idea that the stock market tends to go up, and you're also not like having to have the cost of the managers basically. For me, however, I haven't gone that option because it means I'm investing in every company, and I don't want to invest in every company. I want to invest in ethical companies. And I want to admit, I'm pretty shithouse at buying individual shares. I held shares for years in Woolworths, which is one of Australia's biggest grocery stores, and then I sold them about 2 weeks before the pandemic started, and Woolworths prices went way up. So, lols, I say. Here's the thing, I realize as well, learning about shares and keeping an eye on the stock market regularly isn't a big passion of mine. It's not enough for me to be great at it anyway. So I like that I can invest in managed funds instead, and that they can manage it for me and mitigate my risk a lot more. So this was the part that excited me most as well, that not only could I get managed funds, but I could actually choose ethical managed funds. They follow the same guidelines as ethical super. They usually don't invest in mining, gambling, tobacco, guns, human rights abuses, logging, etc. And instead they invest in clean energy, sustainable solutions, innovative tech and more. And that makes me super happy because I want to make sure I put my money where my mouth is and where my intentions are and my ethics are. And because I was already set up, I used Australian Ethical again for managed funds. Again, there are plenty of options out there for this. And again, this is not a sponsored post. Oz Ethical have no fucking clue who I am. I'm just a bossy motherfucker who looks to talk about everything I'm excited by. Also, if you are not in Australia, there are similar across the world in terms of ethical retirement funds and ethical managed funds. So you'll just have to do your own research. So, in terms of my end goal, eventually I'd like to get to a point where we can live off the returns of our investment portfolio without our balance going down. So we're basically living off the dividends. When you have shares, every 6 months or so, they give you a payout of the profit that company has generated. I'd like to be able to live off those dividends, and I reckon I'd need about $3 million in managed funds to get there. That might seem like a lot, and I'm probably overdoing it in terms of what I actually need, but I like to overdo it. And I'm already over a third of the way there in terms of how much I have in managed funds already, so that's exciting. And at that rate, I'll probably be able to fully retire at 45, but I don't think I'll retire. I just like blogging and creating and making shit far too much. Plus, I've kind of been partially retired since I was 27 anyway. I've only worked about 10 hours a week since then. It mostly feels like a hobby. We do have other investments and income streams, which I go into deep detail about in Money Manifesting Multiple Streams of Income. And they'll factor into retirement funding, and I won't need as much as that $3 million, but I like having one clear and simple goal to fixate on and work towards. And I'll be honest, I used to have a really fucking shit attitude about money. I thought it was selfish and shallow to care about money at all. Meanwhile, I didn't have the cash to do anything to help what I cared about. And here's the thing, I fucking love being abundant now. I love having extra funds that we can easily donate to charities we give a fuck about. For example, last year we could donate $25,000 to Australian Wildlife Conservancy to help them buy more land for wildlife. I love that we can offer up to 400 scholarships a year. I love knowing we can choose alternative education options for our kids. I love that we can take care of our extended family when we need to. And honestly, I reckon the world needs more of us, heart-centered hippies who actually give a fuck about the world and will redirect funds to the places that need it. Now, if you've got any more money questions, please pop me an email, support@leoniedawson.com, and I'll see if I can answer them in a future blog post. And I know as well that talking about money can be very triggering, and I want to send you love to exactly where you are right now. Thank you for listening to my sharing, and I hope in some ways that it's useful. So this is for women being bold and brave and financially savvy. Fuck yeah, I say. Now, of course, the days are counting down. There are less than 19 days left to get my Money Manifesting and Multiple Streams of Income course, my 40 Days to a Finished Book course, and my 40 Days to Create and Sell Your E-course course, which all double in price at the end of this month. So make sure you go to leoniedawson.com/double and yeah, get that shit while it's red hot. Yeah, that's all. Okay, I love you. Bye.